Hello, my name is Josh, and the title of my presentation is What Do We Look Like from Space? The title of the paper that I read is called A Search for Life on Earth from the Galileo Spacecraft. It was written in 1993 by Carl Sagan. Carl Sagan is an American astrophysicist, and he was the first to hypothesize that Venus was a hot fireball. The consensus at the time was that Venus was more like warm and kind of humid and balmy, and Sagan was actually instrumental in the Mariner missions with NASA. And when Mariner 2 arrived at Venus, his hypothesis was confirmed. He was also theorized that the moons Titan and Europa of Jupiter and Saturn might have subsurface oceans, which we know now today that that is also true. Sagan is perhaps best known, though, for his TV show Cosmos and his outreach in the science community to try to involve others, especially children, in the scientific world and how to become involved in learning. The motivation for this particular study was they wanted to use a spacecraft that we had made and sent out into space to look back and analyze the Earth and see if we could tell that we were living on it. So basically it was kind of a control experiment, so that way when we go and analyze other planets, we kind of know what to look for. So the Galileo spacecraft is equipped with multiple instruments. It's got a couple different type of spectrometers on it, an imaging system which can take topographic and color images, and then the team took the data from all of the instruments and combined them and used the overall trend in the data to try to see if they could suggest the presence of life just off of the data that they obtained from the spacecraft. So here's the results. The first thing is they were able to analyze their radiometric data, and that showed them that near the South Pole there was frozen water, and in that area they were able to measure a temperature of about negative 30 degrees Celsius, and as they raised their latitude of their measurement, they also raised the temperature that they were measuring, so they got all the way up to about 18 degrees Celsius as they increased the latitude of their measurements. And then they were also able to determine that the albedo of large areas of the surface was very similar, but it wasn't consistent with that of rock or ice. So that kind of pointed them towards the idea that there would be liquid oceans on the surface, which is important for life. And then they also analyzed the spectral data to determine the chemical makeup of the atmosphere. And they noticed that there was an imbalance in multiple different things, but especially oxygen and water vapor. And these imbalances were not likely caused by a natural system. It's only explained really through a biological system. So for example, plants, when they photosynthesize, they create oxygen, and that raises the oxygen levels in the atmosphere. And animals, when we breathe, we exhale water vapor. Again, that kind of raises that number as well. So the other thing they did was they took images of the surface, so not only visible images, just kind of what it looks like, but also topographical images. And the purpose of those images was to try to see if they could determine any evidence of development, so like roads or cities or anything like that that would point to a developed civilization. However, these images were taken over Australia, and they were taken at night. So not only is Australia pretty sparsely populated, especially in the center where all the landmass is, but it was taken at night, so there wasn't a lot of good data in general. They weren't really able to use that when they were determining whether or not there was a life form on the surface. But one of the biggest things that they noticed was that there was radio signals being emitted from the planet. So they detected amplitude modulating radio signal, so AM radio, and it was strong evidence that highly intelligent technological life exists on the planet. And it was really their only evidence that they were able to determine without a doubt showed highly intelligent life existed on the surface. Okay, so in conclusion, this was mostly just a control experiment. They kind of just wanted to take data that they got from a spacecraft and analyze it to see if they could determine whether or not the planet they were looking at was in fact inhabited. The team was pretty successful, I think, in their endeavors. They were able to determine that the planet is capable of supporting life. They showed that there's large amounts of water, that the surface temperature of the planet is within reasonable limits for supporting all three forms of water, so vapor and liquid and solid. And then they also separately were able to just show that there was chemical imbalances in the atmosphere that were likely only due to a biological process, but obviously they were able to directly show that intelligent life existed through the detection of AM radio signal from the planet. And so I think that it's important to do these kinds of control experiments so that way when we go out and we analyze other planets, we can know what to look for and know what it looks like when we do find something that has life. So yeah, thank you.